Hello and welcome back, Hunters. I am Zygosium, and today I wanted to go over the current endgame grind Artian Weapons. This is a bit of a long topic, so we're going to jump right in. Now I say current mainly for two reasons. Number one, the game has been out for just over 3 months, and most players will have reached the end game some time ago. Since then, there has been ample opportunity to explore this system and get everything you want, and so it isn't really an endgame grind for those hunters at this point. Number two, Capcom has stated that in Title Update 3 coming the end of September, we can expect an additional new system involving randomized talismans. This system will most likely eclipse the Artian Weapon system as the endgame grind. That being said, Capcom has explicitly stated they want to ensure that the Artian weapons you have already forged will remain valuable, which would indicate they do not have plans to neglect or replace this system. With this in mind, I want to explain as simply and as easily as possible how you obtain Artian materials, how you use Artian materials, and how you can exploit the system for a better Artian weapon. Spoiler alert, it's not truly RNG. The pieces required for forging Artian weapons come from rewards for completing tempered monster field surveys or investigations. Every monster in the game is sorted into one of 3 tiers, which determines what level of Artian material is rewarded. Tier 1 monsters give damaged weapon shards, Tier 2 monsters give the rusted weapon shards, and the hardest challenges, the Tier 3 monsters, give ancient weapon fragments. Each tier of rewards is used to make a different tier of Artian weapon. As such, for the remainder of the video we will be looking at the highest tier, Tier 3, as these rewards are what make the strongest weapons. The monsters in Tier 3 are the Apexes, Raydao, Uthduna, New Udra, Jindahad, as well as Arkveld and Gormagala. We have also received monsters since the base game's release, which includes Mizutsune, Seregios, and Lagiakras as tempered 8-star monsters, as well as a special circumstance, Zoshia, who, while not tempered, will still give the Tier 3 Artian rewards for mission completion. As an aside, the rewards you obtain from these monsters seem to be either 1 or 2 Artian pieces per reward box, with the exception of 8-star tempered Gormagala, who has the chance to reward 3 per box. Also note that while we receive Artian rewards from these missions, we do not in fact know what they are. When rewarded, they will randomize and become one of 4 different types of pieces: blade, tube, disc, or device. On top of that, each of these pieces will have attributes, either a bonus to attack or affinity, as well as a status or element modifier. These play a key role in how you forge your Artian weapons, so we will discuss these a little later. Besides completing missions with the Artian pieces as rewards, you can also meld them with the Wyverian melding pot in Suja. By selecting Meld Relics, we can see that we have our choice to meld any of the 3 rarity levels of Artian pieces, or for a higher cost, we can choose the type of piece we want to meld. When an option is selected, you will be presented with a list of what all materials you can use to meld, including Wyverian Bloodstones, produced from breaking tempered monster wounds, Relic tickets earned from the weekly limited bounties or by item trading with Nata, or any Artian pieces you have already obtained. My recommendation for gathering Artian pieces is to do investigations, specifically for tempered Arkveld for a few reasons. Arkveld can appear in any map, so the odds of finding him are much greater than any of the other monsters in Tier 3. He also is tied with having the lowest average health pool for any of the qualifying monsters, meaning he will be faster to defeat. Arkveld can also be found in duo missions frequently, which can give more rewards at the cost of having to fight another monster. Lastly, the farming method for the rare trade materials was nerfed in a prior patch, so gathering a suitable number of materials for trading can be challenging. Now that you know where to get the materials for the crafting, allow me to briefly cover the reinforcement materials. A little later we will discuss reinforcement, but for now know that after you craft an Artian weapon, you have the ability to improve upon it up to 5 times, costing items and Zenny to do so. The items required can be obtained periodically from Nata in the Festival Rewards tab. Otherwise, if you need a larger amount quickly, travel to Azuz and speak with Roqul. Here, you can trade materials for the ore you need. As we are dealing with with rarity 8 weapons, 50 Oricalcite is required for full reinforcement. With our Artian parts and reinforcement materials handled, we can now craft our first Artian weapon. By selecting Forge Artian Weapon at the smithy, you can choose the weapon type you want to make and you will be instructed what parts you need for it. In this case, of the lance, I need 1 blade and 2 discs. Notice how we have many options for each piece. These options are divided based on whether they give us an attack boost or an affinity boost, as well as what inherent element they have. From here on out, you have free choice to use the pieces you want to make the kinds of weapons you want. I may mention things like how the aspects of the pieces relate to the meta, but know that you do not have to craft meta Artian weapons. While a good Artian weapon may have higher damage numbers, do not feel obligated to chase the incredibly rare, perfectly rolled Artian. To start, the pieces you pick will affect the final outcome in 3 areas: attack strength, affinity, and elemental or status. Each piece gives a modifier for either an extra 5 raw attack or 5% affinity. The general recommendation is to use the attack pieces, as affinity is much easier to build on armor than raw attack. Next, we look at the elemental or status aspects of the pieces. If you choose 2 pieces that have the same element or status, you will have this expressed in the final product. 3 pieces of the same status or element will increase the amount on the final weapon. 3 pieces that are all different will result in the weapon being non-elemental. Again, the general recommendation is to find 3 matching pieces, as having an element or status enabled on your Artian weapon does not lower the raw attack amount, making the raw Artian weapons inferior for DPS. Once you have crafted your weapon, it is time to reinforce it. Go to the Reinforce Dismantle Artian option and select the weapon you want to reinforce. Using the ore we discussed earlier, you can reinforce the weapon up to 5 times with a variety of different potential bonuses. Affinity will give an additional 5% per roll, attack will give 5 unbloated raw, element will add more status or element damage, and the amount varies per weapon type. Lastly, we have some that are dependent on if your weapon is melee or a bowgun. Sharpness will provide more sharpness to your weapon, while capacity will add 1 extra shot per magazine for all available ammo types. Apply your reinforcement, and there you have it, a fully fledged Artian weapon. With this, you will have a powerful new tool in your arsenal, and as an added bonus, by fully reinforcing your Rarity 8 weapon, you will have access to all 3 Artian weapon appearances in your layered weapon options. Here's where I have to break the bad news. If you don't like the reinforcement bonuses that rolled on your weapon, there is no way to re-roll them. You have to make a new Artian weapon, but you can dismantle the existing one. If dismantled, you will regain all the material used to reinforce the weapon, but you do lose the Zenny and the Artian pieces in the process. You may say, well, I'll just reload my save and try again so that I don't lose my pieces. And to that, I must apologize again. If you reset and try to recraft the same weapon again, you will find that the bonuses will roll the same exact way they did before. This is because the bonuses are not truly random. Monster Hunter as a series uses tables, essentially a randomized pre-generated chart that spells out every reinforcement you will get in order. There is no way to adjust this table after your character has been created and your save file has been established. However, there are things we can do to try and minimize the cost of getting our perfect Artian weapon. First, understanding the table and how it works is important. My explanation may not be super straightforward, but bear with me and I will try my best to explain it as simply as possible. There are 3 tables per weapon type, 1 for each rarity, for a total of 42 tables. These tables do not interact with each other in any way. If you make and reinforce a Rarity 8 Artian Longsword and then a Rarity 7 Light Bowgun, these will have no impact on one another. If you were to quit your game without saving and made them again in the reverse order, they would still have the same reinforcement bonuses as before. Each of the 42 tables has 2 sides: elemental, which includes status, and non-elemental. Because non-elemental weapons cannot have an elemental reinforcement, they will have different bonuses than their element and status counterparts. Importantly, because these 2 weapons are the same weapon type and rarity, these 2 weapons will affect one another. If you create the elemental version first, then make the non-elemental one, the bonuses will be different than if you made them in the reverse order. With this knowledge, we can sort of game the system and minimize the cost of getting the Artian weapon you want. Step 1 is identify what weapon you want. In my case, I will be attempting to get a Rarity 8 Paralysis Lance. Step 2 is scouting. The process of scouting is identifying the pre-generated rolls on your table without actually using all of your resources. Save your game before doing anything, and don't save after this point. Go and get a large number of ores for reinforcing. Spend whatever material you want. So long as you don't save, these will return to your inventory when you are done scouting. Step 3, make as many Artian weapons of the same type and rarity as you can. Now, one at a time in order, reinforce each one and write down the results. I use a spreadsheet like this to keep track of what my bonuses are. With any luck, you will find the bonuses you want on a weapon before you run out of ore, weapons, or Zenny. When you do, take note of what number weapon that was. For this example, I will be going to my 10th weapon. Once you have the number, return to the title without saving. When you load back in, you should have returned to the game prior to when you made all the ore. Now you need to create throwaway weapons, specifically one less than the number you settled on for the Artian weapon you want to keep. Remember before I said that non-elemental weapons will affect the elemental table? What you can do is use 3 different elemental pieces to make a non-element weapon and progress the table by 1. As these weapons are not what you're looking for and going to be destroyed, you do not need to waste the money reinforcing them and are not using more of the valuable Artian weapon pieces. Once the next weapon you are going to make is the number you identified previously, use the good parts you wanted to use and reinforce it. If done correctly, you should have just made the same weapon you made prior, but without all the waste in between. And with that, the Artian weapon and reinforcing system is complete. There is a lot more that goes into some weapons than others, like the ranged weapons or the gun lance, due to the shelling mechanic that I did not cover here, as again, this is for you to create the weapon you want and not a meta guide. Once you know what you want, follow the steps outlined above and hope your table has what you're looking for relatively closely. If you have any tips for Artian farming, leave a comment, subscribe and click for notifications to see more, and like the video if you felt this was beneficial or informative. Good luck, hunters. Goodbye for now, but not for long.